Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to the Mom on the Verge podcast, where I aim to help you improve your sense of joy, purpose, and meaning in this life. We will talk about a lot of different ways we can do this, but ultimately, we'll be working toward finding our way back home to ourselves and remembering that even in the most challenging times, peace is only a breath away. I am your host, Katie Farinas, a mom, nurse, and yogi on a mission to improve mental health and build community in our world. Hey guys, I wanted to pop in here before the show starts and just tell you about something that's been on my mind because it's something that I'm living right now and it's been a great reminder to me. So I thought I would pass it along to you. If you listened to last week's episode, I mentioned that I was going on vacation with my family, and I was so excited. And my husband and I have both been working really, really hard and super busy, and not having a ton of time to spend with the family. And so I was just really excited to get away and leave all of that behind and spend time as a family. And I had a vision of what that was going to look like, and let's just say that we have encountered quite a few challenges, including one of my children not even coming with us on the trip, and quite a few other challenges as well. It's really just been one challenge after another. So it's been hard because obviously I want this vacation to be what I want it to be, right? I have a vision of what I would like it to be and what I feel it would be best, if it was, and it's certainly turning out quite differently than that. And I have noticed myself quite often over the past 4 to 5 days in resistance to what is. And resistance is something that takes us out of the present moment. And I've talked about this quite a few times on the show, about the only moment we ever have is the present moment, and anxiety and depression and frustration and anger often come from insisting that the present moment be different than what it is, and trying to live in the past or live in the future or make the present moment something different than what it is. And there's a really great little saying that's just easy to keep in your mind, and it's what we resist persists. What we resist persists. And the harder we resist something, it's like a spring, the harder we push against it, the harder it pushes back against us. Because as we know from physics, if you ever even studied high school physics, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, right? So if I push against something, even just energetically push against it, it's going to push against me with equal force. And really what I need to do is to relax into the present moment, to be fully there in my body and in my mind, and to allow what is to be, and to surrender to the present moment and have faith in what it is there to teach me. And it's just a constant reminder, right? It's living, it's doing the work every day and recognizing that the work never ends, right? I've learned this lesson over and over again. This is not new, but I see it showing up over and over. And every time I relax into the present moment and accept it for what it is, there's a great sense of relief and relaxation and peace that comes with that. But with each new challenge we have faced, I've had to do that again and again and again. And so, this work that I ask you guys to do is something that I do on a regular basis. And this is just one example of how it's showing up for me right now in my life. But although, there's a lot going on right now that I would prefer to be different, when I have been able to surrender to the present moment and accept it as it is, I've found so much goodness in that present moment and so much beauty and so much to be thankful for. And that's the gift. That's the gift of allowing yourself to drop the resistance, allowing yourself to find peace in where you are, even if it's not what you had in mind, or if it's not what you would prefer, or even if certain people are suffering in that moment, which again is true for me right now. So there's still so much peace to be had by surrendering to that present moment, and you feel it in your body and in your mind, and the people around you can feel it too, right? So often when we are experiencing things that are less than what we would consider to be ideal, then that can impact our relationships, right? How we relate to the people in our lives, and the amount of stress that we're relating to them with. And when we just allow ourselves to accept the present moment, have faith that it's here to teach us something, be in our bodies and be fully aware of what the present moment is, right? How it feels in our bodies, what's going on around us, what we have to be grateful for. It changes the whole energetic, and it doesn't change the situation, right? The situation is still the situation. It is the same. Nothing about the situation has changed. Only I have changed. And in changing my perspective and my energy, I have then shifted how I perceive the current situation and how I relate to those people around me. So just a reminder to you, because it's been a reminder for me, and, just remembering to make sure that you understand that it is a practice, right? This is a practice we come back to over and over. So as much as I talk about all these things and teach these things and guide other people through these things, I'm still finding that I have to come back to it. And that's the work, right? That's the work of life. And that's the work of, elevating your consciousness and expanding your awareness. And the thing that gets easier over time is how quickly we begin to recognize that we are in resistance, and recognize that we are really fighting the present moment and wishing it and willing it to be something different that it is, and recognizing how that is affecting us, affecting our friends, family, children, partners, affecting how we perceive the situation. We start recognizing that a lot faster. And so we can make that U-turn a lot faster. And there was someone who used to say that they used to say it in relation to diet and exercise. And they would say, when you realize that you have not eaten well, right? You've kind of veered off your healthy eating patterns, or you've, veered away from regular exercise. You don't shame or blame or chastise yourself. You kind of act like a GPS unit, that when you've made a wrong turn or you've passed your turn, it simply says, at the next possible moment, make a U-turn. Calmly and without judgment, at the next possible moment, make a U-turn. So that's what I am inviting for you guys to think about when you have that moment of awareness that you are in resistance to the present moment, and as a result, you are taking yourself out of the present moment. As soon as you become aware, you just say, at the next moment, I'm going to take a U-turn. No shame, no blame, no negativity surrounding it at all. Just a choice to make a turn, to come back to the present moment, to come back to your body, to allow what is, to actually thank what is for being there, to see the lessons it's there to teach you, and to find the gifts in it. So anyway, I hope that you enjoy this episode that it's about to come up. This is actually my talk from the Mom on the Verge summit that I had a few weeks ago. It's on, of course, my favorite topic, Dharma, and I go into more detail here than in previous episodes. So I hope it is helpful for you to understand what Dharma is and how you can apply it in your life. If you have any questions, of course, as always, I love to hear from you. Any feedback, any comments, you know how to reach me. momontheverge.org has all ways of reaching me there. And if you listen to this episode and it really resonates with you and you think that you would like Dharma coaching, that this is something that's missing in your life, this passion, this purpose, this sense of, joy and ease and flow in the things that you do on a daily basis, then please book a discovery call on my website. Just top right-hand corner, there's a pink little box that says book a call. It's free. It's 20 minutes. We'll just chat. I'll get all of your questions answered and we'll see if it's a good fit for you. But, in all of these challenges that we face in life, even the one that I'm currently facing, I know that being in my Dharma helps me to be more resilient to these challenges, to take on these challenges with a bit more ease, with a bit more humor, and a bit more perspective, because I'm firmly rooted in who I am and what I believe and what I'm meant to do in this world and how I'm meant to serve. So if all of that sounds like something you would be interested in, please take a listen to this episode and then book a call with me and we can chat. Okay. Hope you enjoy it, guys. Have a great week. All right, so welcome back to day 2 of the Journeying Home to Yourself Mom on the Verge Summit. Day 1 was super fun, so I'm excited to begin this day, and today I will be speaking. So I am the host of this summit, but in case you came to this summit through one of the other speakers, a brief introduction to me is that I am the host of the Mom on the Verge podcast. I'm a Dharma coach. I'm a nurse, a mom of 2, and an adorable pup that I'm slightly obsessed with, a former teacher. I have lots of different titles that I can add on top of my name, but we'll come back to that, actually. We'll come back to that because it really relates to this concept of Dharma. And so I'm going to go deep into this concept of Dharma, what it is, why it's important, how we can uncover it. Sometimes I use the word discover, sometimes I use the word uncover. I'm coming to really enjoy that word uncover a lot more because our Dharma really is something we come into this body and this earthly realm with. And it just kind of gets buried. And then we have to do the hard work of excavating it. So kind of like the idea of uncovering, but we'll go a lot more in depth with that. But my story kind of begins when I'm probably about 5 years old. So around 5 years old, I got on what everyone gets on, what I call the cultural conveyor belt, right? So I was put into school, which we all are. And for the next 16 years, that was my job. Every day I went to school, I did my schoolwork, and I saw that as what I was supposed to do. That was my job at that time in my life, my purpose. But at age 21, I graduated college, and for the first time, I felt extremely lost. I was like, what do I do now? I've done this thing for the past 16 years that society told me I had to do / should do to be a good person, to fit into society, to, get a good job, to achieve things in my life. But here I am, 21, and the first question I think to myself after graduation is, now what? What do I do? And I was so lost and confused. And I remember I had never heard the word Dharma. I wouldn't hear the word Dharma probably for another 15 years. But all I knew is that I felt purposeless and I was struggling to figure out what my purpose was. And that took me on a long and winding journey that was actually in my best interest, as we'll find out.
throughout this talk, but a long and winding journey to discover what it is I was really meant to do and why I was really here. And that journey was pretty painful. I'm not going to lie. Like, it was very uncomfortable, but I'm grateful for it. I am now grateful for it. But it has now become my passion and my purpose and my Dharma to help other people uncover theirs, because I think it is really one of the biggest factors or keys to having a joyful, abundant, successful, internally successful life. And internal success often leads to external success. So let's dive into Dharma. I want you to just take a moment to close your eyes and take a deep breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. Let's do that again. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Good job. One last time. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Good. And now feel your body sitting in the chair. We're just coming to the present moment. Feel the weight of your body as it presses down into the seat beneath you, maybe the floor, couch, bed, wherever you are. Good. Now feel your chest as it's rising and falling with each breath. Maybe you feel that sensation more in your belly. Maybe you feel cold air as it enters your nose and warm air as it exits. And now set an intention to relax each part of your body. Relaxing your eyes, the muscles around your eyes. Relaxing your jaw, maybe separating the teeth a little bit. Relaxing the shoulders that have a tendency to scrunch up around the ears. Relaxing your arms, even your palms and fingers. Let them go limp and loose. Relaxing your chest and belly as you continue to feel that breath coming in and out like a wave. Relaxing your hips and buttocks. Letting your thighs sink. Relaxing your calves, the soles of your feet, and even your toes. And now I want you to think about a typical day in your life. When you wake up in the morning and you open your eyes and you begin to think about the day in front of you, what feelings come over you? Are they feelings of excitement, joy, passion? Do you feel energetic, like you can't wait to get up and go? Is there anxiousness, dread, exhaustion? Just bring to mind a few feelings from a typical day in your life. Now I want you to think about the feelings you'd really like to feel when you wake up in the morning. And maybe what you are feeling on a typical day is what you desire to feel. But if it's not, take a few moments and just call to mind what feelings you'd like to feel in the morning when you wake up, you open your eyes, and you think about the day ahead of you. And whatever feelings those are, try to actually feel them in your body. and describe what they feel like. There could be sensation, temperature, sense of heaviness or lightness. Good. And now just bringing your attention back to your breath. And when you feel ready, you can open your eyes. Okay, so what I was doing there was trying to call to your attention your present state, feeling state, and your desired feeling state, and if those two things are the same or not the same. And if they're not the same, that's okay, right? This is not about judgment, blame, shame, guilt. This is about awareness, awareness of where we are and awareness of where we would like to be. And if there is a gap there between where we are and where we would like to be, then that's where we begin our work. And it's beautiful work. Okay, so I don't want anyone to feel like, overwhelmed or there's something wrong with them. This is beautiful work that we are all called to do. And I'm here to help you with that work. And that is the work of my life, is to help you with your work. So what is Dharma really? Dharma is a Sanskrit word. It has been interpreted many different times in many different communities around the world. And there is overarching Dharma, and then there's something called your own personal Dharma, and that's what we're talking about today. And personal Dharma in Sanskrit is called Svadharma, S-V-A Dharma. And it translates into your personal duty. So it is your own duty, and it is a duty to yourself. It is a duty to be committed to the fire that burns inside of you, to your soul's purpose, or another word we can use for it is essence. Okay, so we all have a duty to work with our soul's purpose in a way that serves ourselves, but also serves the outer world. And this word first showed up in an ancient Indian text called the Bhagavad Gita, which you can look up. It's a wonderful text and has many life lessons, but this particular lesson that came out of it is what we're focusing on today. And these dharmas can be expressed in so many different ways. So we all come into the world with one dharma, but we can express them in many different ways. And we're going to talk about that as well. But our way of expressing them can change a lot over time. So there's not just one way of expressing your dharma. But when we do, we feel fulfilled. We feel joyous. We feel full of purpose and passion. We often feel like we're in flow, right? That sense of flow where time is just passing. You just can't believe hours have gone by and you've been so engaged in this activity that you feel like it's been 10 minutes. It's much deeper than an occupation, right? So our dharma, we can express our dharma through our occupation, but we can express it in many ways. And in fact, once you become aware of what your dharma is, you actually can find ways of expressing it in most everything that you do in your life every day. But you just first have to be aware of it. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a job that you receive money for. We're going to go deeper into that, but I want to make sure that that's clear. We're not talking about only something that you are paid to do. Your dharma does not need outside validation. We all come in, like I said, with a dharma, and often our dharma is so personal to us, so deeply who we are, so connected to our soul and to our authenticity that it feels kind of scary to express it, actually, because when we're expressing it, we're really showing the world our deepest self. And so it can feel kind of scary to put that out there. And it also can feel like maybe if someone judges us for it, it may lose its value, right? It may lose its sacredness, because your dharma is actually sacred. It is sacred to you and is also sacred to the world. But life has a way of pulling us out of our Dharma, right? We go through a lot of things that pull us away from our Dharma. And I want to just show you a little picture. This is called the Dharma wheel. Everyone can see that. So this would represent your own personal individual Dharma. The center is your Dharma or your essence. And all these little spokes that you can see coming away from that center towards the outer edge of the wheel are things that pull you away from your Dharma. So these are things like cultural expectations of what it means to be a man, a woman, Black, white, straight, gay, transgender, all of these things of what it means to be who you are seen to be in this culture. It can be pulled away by parental expectations, right? How many times when you were growing up did your parents ask you, what do you want to be when you grow up? Not who you are, not what lights you up, not how do you want to serve the world, but what do you want to be? As if this huge concept of Dharma, your true essence, could be squeezed into this tiny little package that we name, right? I want to be a teacher. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a therapist. I want to be an architect, right? These are occupations and titles, and our Dharma can be weaved in them, but they are not our Dharma. Okay, but we live in a culture that is obsessed with what we're going to do, right? What are you going to, not only what are you going to do, but what do you do, right? You meet a new person. What's one of the first things you want to know about them? What do they do, right? As if that is a reflection of who they are, but it's not, right? What we do is not at all a reflection of who we truly are. So we have these parental expectations, cultural expectations, societal expectations, all pulling us out of this center and out to the edge of the wheel, right? But this is not where fulfillment lies. This is not where joy lies. This is not where inner peace lies. It all lies in the center. And so our job is to come back, to use the spokes that once took us away to actually return to the center by recognizing them and letting them go and changing the narrative around them. So we also have something called the arrival fallacy, which is really popular in our culture. And the arrival fallacy says, when I get this, I will be happy, right? When I get this new job, I will be happy. When I buy a house, I will be happy. When I have a partner, I will be happy. When I have children, I will be happy. When I make this next promotion, I will be happy, right? On and on and on it goes, as if once we arrive at this new destination, that's why it's called the arrival fallacy, that is when we will find lasting peace, joy, we'll be fulfilled, we'll be satisfied, we will be all the things that we're truly desiring to be. So just take a moment, think back on those feelings that you want to feel when I asked you to think about the feelings you want to feel when you wake up in the morning. The arrival fallacy says, when we get this, we will feel that. But we all know if we've reached a certain age and we've tried this a certain number of times that it's untrue, right? We get all those next things. We check all of those boxes and all it does is make us want the next thing because we don't feel the feelings that we want to feel. And so now we're like, okay, I guess that wasn't it. I guess that wasn't the thing. So now I need to go for the next thing. And maybe when I arrive at that's when I'll feel all of these feelings that I want to feel. Because in life, we don't want the things. We want the feelings that come with the things. And when we get the things, we might get the feeling for a teeny tiny little amount of time, but then it fades. And so we need the next thing. It's almost like a drug addict, if I'm going to be honest, where you get the high, right? But what happens to a drug addict? They take the drug, they get the high, but then the high fades. And so they need to take the drug again to get the high again. And then what happens? If after they do drugs long enough, they need more and more and more drugs to get the same high. Okay, so that's what we're talking about with the arrival fallacy. It's the same exact thing. What I'm talking about with Dharma is finding lasting peace, joy, fulfillment, purpose through doing the inner work, right? So not looking outside for those feelings, like something outside of me is going to bring me those feelings, but finding those feelings by going inward and coming back to our center and coming back to our essence and coming back to our Dharma so that we can have those feelings permanently. So once we've done this enough, right? Once we've kind of bought into this arrival fallacy for quite a while and tried to get the feelings, the lasting feelings we've wanted for a while. And we keep seeing that, no, that's not it. That's not it. That's not it. We kind of get disillusioned. We get to a point where we're like, okay, I'm like exhausted. I have been on this, this cycle of trying to achieve, feeling like I did, and then losing that feeling over and over and over again. Why am I here? Why am I doing all this? What's the point of ambition, of working hard, of, doing all these things that culture tells us to do if it doesn't actually lead to lasting internal fulfillment and joy? Is there a point to life, right? Some people are like, what is, they get to a point in their life where they ask, what is the point of all this? Is it just to like work, and then die? Like, because life's hard, right? There's a lot of stuff that comes our way. It's really challenging. And we start just asking all these questions. Why doesn't life feel the way it used to feel, right? Maybe when you were a kid or you were young and you had less responsibility, maybe it felt more fun, more joyful, more exciting. Like, what happened to that? How do I get it back? Why does every day just feel like an uphill climb? I'm so exhausted by this never-ending to-do list that I have. These are all the questions we start asking ourselves. And often when we're asking ourselves those questions, we're on the outside of the wheel. Okay. Those are real red flags that you are out here and not in here, right? Again, this is not a blame game. This is an awareness game. So we've now become aware. If you're asking those questions, you're like, okay, I have strayed from my center. It's time to start coming back. And we saw during COVID, the Great Resignation, I really think that was a huge part of this, that people were on the conveyor belt of culture for so long. And then COVID came and it really disrupted the cultural norm. And people started asking these questions. They didn't feel empowered to ask these questions before. They felt like they didn't have any other choice than to do what they were doing. And then we saw, life can operate differently. I don't have to do it this way. What if I shifted my paradigm? What if I shifted it from solely focusing on work to focusing on worth? And I don't mean financial worth. I mean internal worth, your own worth. And what if outer success doesn't actually lead to inner success? What if it's the other way around, right? These are some of the questions that we began to ask, when COVID came along and when things were shaken up. And we're not the first that this has happened to, right? Life is on an endless repeat of cycles, right? So there's something called the middle path. And the middle path was actually first, it was a concept that was first brought to us by the Buddha. Because, you can read all about the Buddha, I encourage you to, it's really fascinating. But a real short story of the Buddha was that basically he was born into a very wealthy royal family. Everything was taken care of for him. He had to do nothing for himself. And his parents shielded him actually from the outside world. So he didn't know that everybody else didn't live exactly like him. And then one day he got a glimpse of the outside world and he was like, whoa, like, whoa, this is wild. I think he was pretty much an adult when it happened. And he decided that he would renounce everything he had, all his title, his money, like his servants, everything. And he would go completely to the other side, right? He had lived his whole life on this one side, this one extreme of wealth and privilege. And now he decides to give that all up and be a pauper, how do you say that? A poor person, all the way on the other side. And he would basically live on the streets as a beggar, own nothing, spend his life in meditation and prayer, etc. But that didn't work either because he almost died. So he was like, okay, actually, neither one of these are the right way. The right way is the middle path. So you may have heard of the middle path, and that's where it came from. It came from the Buddha realizing that we aren't meant to live at the extremes of life. We're meant to live down the center. And this concept, the way that I said, we had the Great Resignation during COVID, actually had something similar happened in India many years ago. So it was ancient India and things were really popping. Businesses were growing. There was a lot of building of structures and wealth. And it was a really exciting time, right? Because India had been so poor and, its people had really dreamed of something like this, happening to them. But what they started to realize was that once it started happening, all of these things that they had wanted to achieve were requiring them to spend a lot more time working, requiring a lot less time spent with their family, less time spent doing fun things. There was a lot more pressure on them. They didn't have time for their spiritual practices, which in India are so important. And so a division actually occurred where there were people who were like, yeah, I don't actually feel any more fulfilled, but how can we give up all this progress, what they saw as progress, right? How can I give that up? No, I don't feel more fulfilled, but maybe if I just do this next thing, I will. And then there was the other cohort who said, no way, I don't want any part of this. We are going off into the deep forests. We are leaving all of this behind so that we can have our freedom and go back to the way of living of our ancestors, so on and so forth. So they left and they went off into the forest. Well, after a period of time, they too actually became really unhappy. And they realized that although they didn't want that incessant pressure and that constant cycle of nothing but work, they did want to serve other people. They did want to create. They did want to build. They did want to be of service. They were bored. And so they really missed waking with a sense of purpose and going to bed with a sense of achievement. And so once again, we come back to the middle path. And that's what I'm asking everyone to think about today, is how you can find the middle path that lives within your Dharma. Because when we try to walk the middle path in Dharma, it allows us to dream really big and to be fulfilled, to have inner success that leads to outer success, and to realize that those two things are actually not polar opposites. They are just two sides of the same coin, and we actually can't separate them from each other. And when we do, we end up in burnout. We feel hollow, we feel bored, we feel aimless. But Dharma, or living in our essence, helps us to guide us back to that joy where we can still do those things that help us to serve and to build and to create and to grow, but do it in a way that allows us to avoid burnout and avoid that hollow emptiness. So your Dharma is your essence, okay? But there are multiple ways of expressing it, which we talked about in the beginning. It doesn't care about power, status, promotion, material items. Your Dharma doesn't care about any of that, right? Your soul didn't come here for a pile of things. Your soul came here for the experience of being human and to learn the lessons that it needs to learn to move you to your next level, right? To your next level of growth and expansion. So your Dharma only cares about expression. And the expression is how we deliver it in the world. So I want to go back a little bit to talk about me and my 21-year-old self and being so lost and confused, and I didn't know what I wanted. And what I didn't say in the beginning, and I should have said, was that I also looked around at the world and what everyone else was doing in their 9-to-5s. And I thought, ooh, that sounds terrible, right? But I felt really bad about feeling like that, right? I felt really like there was something wrong with me, because it seemed like that's what the rest of the world did, and they seemed to be perfectly happy doing it. So why did I think it seemed so terrible? And so I went on to become a teacher, and I taught for a couple of years, and then I actually went back to school and I became a nurse, and I got married in that time frame. I had a couple of children, and all along I just still kept asking that question, like, what am I meant to do? How am I meant to serve? I just feel like I'm not quite hitting the mark. Like I'm just off the mark somewhat. And I was still deeply in illusion, right? I was still deeply asleep to how much culture was impacting me, how much my parents' expectations and opinions were impacting me, how much even my husband's expectations and opinions were affecting me. And then you add motherhood to that with all the expectations of culture from motherhood. And I just felt so deeply unhappy. And I kept distinct memories of taking my kids on walks or driving home from school, from work, and just asking God, like, what am I meant to do? Why am I here? Like this, I just can't figure it out. And even getting to a point where I said, hands up, I give up. I guess there is no point for me being here. Like There's nothing I was meant to do. This is it. I guess this is it. I'm not going to have to live with the fact that this is it. And I think when I put my hands up and I surrendered and I said, guess this is it, God, that's when God stepped in and said, now you're ready. Now you're ready, because you're not holding on so tightly to what is this one thing, because in my mind, it was one thing I was meant to do, one title, one job, one process. But God said, no, it's not. That's not what Dharma is. So at 38, no, I guess I was like 41. At 41, I said, I'm gonna do a yoga teacher training. And I did it. And that's where I first really learned about Svadharma. I had heard about Dharma in the past, but it's where I really learned about Svadharma and my personal Dharma. And it was like, mind blown, right? I'm not meant to do one thing. Like, this is something that weaves throughout my entire life, and potentially in every interaction I have and every role that I play in my life. Whoa. Okay. So I want that to be really clear to people, that we're not talking about one thing. We're talking about how you exist in the world. And once you know what your Dharma is, you'll actually start seeing it everywhere. You will start. I was at a concert a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, I see my Dharma here, right? I'm at work. I see my Dharma here. In relationship with my children, I see my Dharma here. You will start seeing it everywhere. But once you know what it is, then you can really take those experiences of a job, of parenthood, of relationships, of whatever you do in your life, and you can start kind of tweaking them to bring your Dharma to the surface. And when you do that, you're at your best self, right? So you are giving your best in those moments, and in having the most impact in those moments. And we have a choice. Each one of us has a choice, right? You can choose to follow your Dharma. You can choose to investigate what it is, figure out what it is, lean into it, express it, make it a part of your life. Or you can choose to ignore it, right? So you have the choice. There's free will here. But I love this quote from the book of Thomas. And it says, if you bring forth what is within you, that thing will save you. And if you don't, it will destroy you. And I truly believe that my Dharma saved me. I've gone through some pretty difficult things in my life, including a point where I thought I didn't want to live anymore. And my Dharma was a big part of saving me and getting me through those things. Your Dharma makes you more resilient. It makes you more persistent. It makes you feel that you can tackle the challenges that inevitably come to us in life. It is something that not only brings you joy and brings you fulfillment, but it also serves you in those really challenging times in your life. So we have the choice: express it or let it burn a hole in you. So does your expression stay the same over a lifetime? No, we always said that. Nothing stays the same in your life, right? Your body doesn't stay the same. Your interests don't stay the same. Your family doesn't stay the same. Like, your work doesn't stay the same. Your schedule doesn't stay the same, right? Nothing stays the same. Life is in constant flux. It's in constant change. So you're going to go through many different iterations of expressing your Dharma. But once again, once you know what it is, you can always lean into it. And let's say you are, looking for a new job, and you are, a business person, you work in the business world. Well, if you know that your Dharma is to develop people, right? That's what you feel your Dharma is, right? There's no job out there that's called developing people. Okay. But you can do that in certain positions within business, but you can also do that in every other area of your life. So I often reference parenthood. So a big part of my Dharma is connection. It is healing. I really do feel like my true Dharma at its absolute essence is healing, but I do that through connection. I do that through teaching, right? I express it in these different ways. But let's say parenthood. There are many aspects of parenthood, but my absolute favorite, and where I feel like I'm at my best and in my Dharma, is when I am deeply connecting with my children and healing them through my presence, through listening, to holding space for them, right? But maybe your Dharma is creativity. And when you're in parenthood, your favorite part of parenthood is infusing creativity into your child's lives, right? Which is super important. It doesn't mean all those other things you do in parenthood aren't also really important, but that's where you come alive, right? That's where you feel in flow, you feel so excited, you feel full of passion, and it's your way of connecting with your kids, right? So we just have to find out what that essence is, what that fire is, what, when you do it, what comes alive inside of you. So we talked at the beginning about how Dharma is, you come in with it, it never leaves you, it gets covered over and layered by things. So I'm going to give you 3 tools to begin chiseling away to discover your Dharma. I think it was Michelangelo who said, the sculpture is always inside the block, right? He would look at a block of concrete or whatever it was that he chiseled, and he would see it. He would already see what he was going to create. And in his mind, it was already there. All he had to do was actually just chisel away so that we could all see it. And that's what this is about. That's what we're talking about here. We're talking about chiseling away so that you can see what's already there. So first chisel. Look at what you love about the experiences that you don't necessarily like, okay? So it's a little confusing to wrap your brain around, right? So I'm going to give an example from my own life. I currently work as a nurse. There are many parts of working as a nurse that are not ideal for me. However, at my essence, I am a healer, okay? What does that mean? Does that mean I'm a healer because I hand out medications, or because I adjust monitors, or because I help deliver babies? Sure, that's kind of part of it, but it's not my part of it, right? That's not how I'm a healer. How am I a healer as a nurse? When I sit down with my patients, grab a chair, pull up next to them in their bed, I talk to them about what they're afraid of, I answer any questions. When they're in serious pain, I help them with breath work, I hold their hand. When they are struggling with, I work in West Philadelphia, I see a lot of, unfortunately, really challenging social situations. I just had a patient a couple of days ago who she was like 24 weeks pregnant, 0 family here in the United States, all of her family back in Africa. She does not read or write English. She has no job, and her boyfriend, she cannot figure out what's going on with him, but basically he has kind of gone off the rails, and he lost his job. He is acting erratic. They got kicked out of their apartment, and she has nowhere to go. And she came into the hospital and would not speak to anyone. She just came in and said, I need help. But she wouldn't explain to anyone about why she needed help until I came in and I sat with her. I just sat with her in silence. And I said, when you're ready, I'm ready. Until then, I'm just here. And she eventually opened up about what was going on with her. That's my healing, right? That's my sweet spot. That's where my Dharma lies. I also gave her juice and crackers, gave her IV fluids, gave her some Tylenol for a headache. She had passed out and hit her head. Like, I also did all those things, right? I don't really love those things, right? They're tasks. They're check boxes I have to check. But within that experience, I was able to find my Dharma and express it. And it made having to check all those other boxes so much easier. And so much, even though I'm like, I don't really prefer this, it doesn't bother me as much. If I saw that job as only giving out medication, starting IVs, hanging fluids, adjusting monitors, if that's all I saw that job to be as, I would hate it. But because I can infuse my Dharma into it, then that job becomes so much more meaningful to me. And it doesn't mean I have to stay in that job, right? Anybody who's in a job who's feeling like I am. It doesn't mean you have to stay. But in this moment, which is all we ever have, is the present moment, you can learn to appreciate it so much more if you know what your Dharma is and you bring it there. Okay, so that's your first one. So start taking some experiences that maybe you don't prefer and looking for the parts of them that you actually do like and how you could, and what that says about your Dharma, right? That's what we're looking for. It's like, okay, I don't really like this experience, but this one part of it I like. Why do I like that? How is that? How could that potentially be related to my Dharma? What about that part do I like? Okay, that's your first question. The second one is start looking everywhere for ways of expressing your Dharma. Open up to all possibilities that exist. You might get inspiration from watching a movie and seeing what a character does. I personally ask every single person that I meet, what do you do? Do you like it? And like, how did you like, tell me your path. How did you get there? Right. I just want to know. There's so many fascinating people and fascinating things, just getting curious is really what I'm talking about. Getting curious about what is available in the world, because often we have a limited view. We know just with our people in our circle, so when you start opening up and becoming curious, you start really expanding the possibilities. Maybe you want to start a new hobby, right? Is there something that you've always been interested in doing, but you've just really never prioritized and taken the time to engage in that hobby? Do it, right? If something's been calling to you over and over for sometimes years, there's a reason. There's a reason it's calling to you. It is not for no reason. It's not just an idea. It is your soul trying to communicate with you and tell you something. So pay attention. Volunteer is another one. Volunteering is a great way to get out there, experience new things, and then going back and asking yourself the first question. What did I like about that experience? What part of that experience was meaningful to me, and why was it meaningful to me? Okay. Last one is to do a magazine walk. This is by Sunil Gupta. He's an author on a book on Dharma, and he talks about the magazine walk, which I don't know about these days, how many places you can go and do a magazine walk, because we do everything virtually now, but I'm sure you could do it in a library, in a bookstore, that kind of thing. But basically you walk down the aisle where the magazines are kept, and any magazine that kind of catches your attention and draws you in, go over to it, pick it up and start looking at it. And then start going back to the first question. Why was I drawn to this? What is this magazine about? And why was that topic interesting to me? Or maybe it's the aesthetic, right? Maybe it's the aesthetic of the magazine. It's not even really the topic. I just looked at this and I thought it was so beautiful, right? The design of it was so beautiful. Why is that meaningful to me? And again, we're just getting curious. We're being playful and we're trying to really understand ourselves. We're trying to peel back all of those layers that have been placed on top of us. The next question is, what would I do for free? Right? Make a list of things. Under each one, write down what excites you about it. So what would you do for free? No one would have to pay you. I call it, what is the thing that you can't not do, right? I love the double negative. What is the thing you can't not do? I just have to do this thing in my life. I feel compelled, right? That's the things that you would do for free. Because you can't, there's no other way. You just can't not do them, right? So make a list of those and then write down why you would do them for free, what excites you, and what feelings arise in you when you do them. Because remember, we're always after a feeling state. That's all we really desire is that feeling state. So what feelings do arise in you when you do that thing? And then the last question I invite you to ask is, what are the things that if I don't do, I feel like I will die inside, right? It would be literally like we talked about, the essence of your Dharma being like a fire burning inside of you. And you can have a massive bonfire, right? That's when you really pay attention to your Dharma and you are feeding it wood, and it is blazing, right? When we don't pay attention to it, it's like a little flicker, a little candle flicker, right? And what are the things that if you didn't do, it'd be like putting your finger on top of that flicker and just extinguishing it? Okay. Ask yourself those questions. Lastly, you're going to have to tap into your intuition. So in order to really start removing all of those layers that have been piled on top of your Dharma, we're going to really have to start getting quiet and really listening to that inner guide that's inside all of us. We all have it. It is like Dharma. It comes in with us. It leaves with us. It never goes away. It could get quieter when we don't pay attention to it. But when we start getting still and quiet and listening, it will give us a lot of clarity on our next steps. It may not, it's not like you start listening to your intuition. Maybe if you have a really wonderful moment, you might be like, this is it, this is my Dharma, right? But most likely for most of us, it's going to be, this is the next step. I don't know what will happen after that, but I'm not worried about what will happen after that. I'm just going to take the next step because this is what my intuition told me to do. And then I'm going to get curious about that next step. I'm going to see what it has to teach me. And then I'm going to listen again for the next step. Okay, so this is a journey. This is not an overnight process. And once we get clarity on what it is, then we can learn to prioritize, right? I don't have time in this talk, but if we were to work together, we would talk a lot about Dharma versus duty, right? We all have duties in our life that are inescapable. And how do we infuse our Dharma into our life when we have all these other duties? But one of the big things is prioritization, right? Just like anything else in your life, if you were listening to our talk yesterday on community and friendship, we talked about how if community is important to you and friendship's important to you, you need to make it a priority in your life. You need to schedule it. You need to plan it. You need to make sure nothing gets in the way of it. And Dharma is the same. And my last point is that Dharma isn't just about you. It's about raising the collective consciousness of the world. And if you think of the world as a symphony with each of us playing an instrument, then we need to each play our own instrument in tune for the song to be beautiful. And we are all worried about the things that are going on in this world right now. With everything that's going on in the news, in the world, everything that we see, we can feel powerless, helpless, hopeless. But the best thing you can do is to play your instrument to the best of your ability and really, truly know and believe that the music you are helping to create, how you're helping to tune, bring the song of the universe in tune, filters out into the world and makes beautiful and lasting change. Now, sometimes it's hard to keep going. Sometimes we doubt ourselves. We talked in the beginning how, our Dharma really is our essence. And so it's this really sacred and it's vulnerable. To show it, it feels very vulnerable because it is our true self at the deepest level. So I love this mantra by Ram Dass, who says, love, serve, believe. And that is a mantra you can take with you over and over when you feel scared, when it seems hard, when you want to give up. Love, serve, believe. Love your essence, love your Dharma, recognize it as the truest part of yourself, and take time to see all the gifts it has to offer in the world. Spend time with it just like you would spend time with a loved one, engaging with a loved one, getting to know a loved one. Our loved ones change all the time too. We have to spend time with them to continue to know them on the deepest level, and do it with an open heart and see what unfolds. Engage in it everywhere, even in areas of your life that seem unrelated. Bring your Dharma in. And once you start appreciating your Dharma, you'll see how it can be infused into every area of your life. So that's the love. Then serve. If you feel scared, flip the script, right? Instead of putting the spotlight on you and about how scary it seems to bring forth this thing that seems so deeply intimate to you and that people might judge it, turn it around and say, I'm going to take the focus off myself and look at how my Dharma, my gifts, my passion, my purpose can serve the world. Because service is the purest form of expression. And as humans, we are hardwired for service. And it gives us a tremendous amount of satisfaction, deep, powerful satisfaction when we are in service. So every time you feel that oh, it feels uncomfortable. It feels scary, right? Doing this talk today, this is scary. Like I'm putting myself out there, but I am doing this in service, right? I have a prayer that I say for each one of my talks where I say, let me be a conduit for transformation. Let me be a beacon of light for people who are in need, and let me be a container of love for healing, right? That's my service out into the world. And then believe in your ability to change the world. And the fact that you're living your Dharma, you have already won the game. That's it. You have already won the game, right? Because Dharma doesn't care about possessions and wealth and status. It just cares about being expressed. So you have already won the inner success when you are in Dharma. And no matter where it takes you throughout your life, you will always be learning and growing and serving. And truly, there is nothing better than that, to spend your life learning, growing, and serving. We talked about in the beginning, outer success and inner success. Outer success often doesn't lead to inner success unless we flip it around and we start with that inner success. If we start with that, once again, you've already won the game, and the things that can come out of it can be really, really beautiful. So we have, looks like 8 minutes left. I'm going to bring us into a meditation for our last 8 minutes. So wherever you are, just get comfy. And if you feel comfortable, close your eyes. I'm going to play a little bit of music. So just give me a moment. Start coming back to your breath the way we did in the beginning. Just give me a second to be able to share my audio with you guys. And just continue breathing. Just like you did in the beginning, in through the nose, out through the mouth. And make those breaths as long and deep as you can get them. And once you do a few of those, then just breathing in and out through your nose and focusing on that sensation of the breath coming in and out, whether it be the chest rising and falling, or the belly rising and falling. Maybe it's both chest and belly, or maybe you actually feel expansion that goes around into your back, where you feel a little bit of a stretch in the back as you breathe out, and then a release. As you breathe in, and then a release as you breathe out. Good. Getting my music.
I'm allowing me to be me. I'm allowing me to be free. I'm allowing my power. I'm allowing well-being. I'm allowing my path to light up before me. I'm allowing everything
Just keep breathing in and out,
as it comes to me.
being here.
Shining brightly. I'm allowing easily
And allow
all my dreams to be
what is.
in the right timing.
An individual's life purpose is their Dharma. It's our truth that comes from deep within.
the reason you came to this world, how you serve yourself and the world. It utilizes your unique combination of skills, talents, passions, personality traits, ways of learning, working, and sharing.
I'm allowing my brilliance. I'm allowing
We as individuals are just one thread in the fabric of the collective consciousness. We are part of the whole.
I'm allowing
So when we follow our deepest truth, we raise the totality of existence.
I'm shining brightly. I'm allowing easily, allowing all my dreams
To be in Dharma means we are serving the world and moving the collective to a higher state of consciousness through our thoughts, words, and actions that are uniquely ours. It requires us to elevate ourselves into our most unbounded state, to step fully and completely into our authenticity, without concern for what others might think or say. It asks you to live openly, lovingly, and intelligently.
to unfold now before me. I'm allowing everything to
Ask yourself,
be as it comes to
what do you want at the level of your soul?
him brightly. I'm allowing easily, allowing all my dreams to be in the right timing.
Ask yourself, what satisfies your deepest inner feelings?
Me to be me.
When in Dharma, we feel supported by everything around us and complete within us.
To be free.
You feel supported by the universe, and your actions become spontaneously correct. To commit to your Dharma, quietly in your mind say the following statements. When doubts arise, I will first doubt the doubter. When things don't seem to be going my way, I trust the universe has great plans for me. I will be patient and always choose love. The flow of my life is guided by my true self. Coming back to your breath. And then opening your eyes when you feel ready. All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening. I hope that brought some clarity to what Dharma is and how you can begin to uncover it in your own life. And I, of course, am always available for questions, comments. We do have to move to the next talk, but you can always reach out to me on Instagram, email, my website. I hope this talk was clarifying for you. I hope you have a better understanding of what Dharma is and why it's important. I hope you were able to see yourself in some areas of this talk, whether it be the arrival fallacy and how that is shown up in your life, or this inner essence that is yearning to be expressed. I hope
that you will come back to that Ram Dass quote over and over: love, serve, believe, because I do strongly feel that those 3 words will help you lead yourself back home to your Dharma. And it will guide your path. It'll guide you on your journey. So if you felt like this talk was really meaningful to you, if it really resonated with you, if there's a stirring inside of you that occurred when you were listening to this talk, please reach out to me. Please book that discovery call. Let's have a conversation. Let's change the world, because truly this is how we change the world, is by stepping into our Dharma and turning that flicker of a candle flame inside of us into a raging bonfire so that we can share the light and the beauty of it with the world. Have a wonderful week, friends. Hi, everyone. If you enjoyed this episode or any of our other episodes, I ask that you please like the show, follow, subscribe, or share. The way that podcasts work is the more people that do one of those things, the more likely it is that when someone's looking for a podcast to listen to, our show will pop up for them. I started this podcast because I really see there's a great need in our world for people to feel more peace, joy, love, and acceptance in their lives. And I think we can do that when we have a greater sense of self-awareness. We could become conscious creators of our own lives. And I'm seeking to do that for as many people as possible. So if you could help me by liking, sharing, or subscribing to the show, I'd really appreciate it. And hopefully someone hears a conversation that changes their life. Thank you again, and I'll see you next time. Much love.